Before we start quilting, we need to make sure that our tension is correct in our bobbin tension and our top tension. The first thing we need to remember though is our bobbin tension is that foundation. We always set that bobbin tension first and then we start adjusting the top tension. So I want to show you how to set that bobbin tension so that we get that accurate and then we can have more success with our quilting. So the first bobbin case I have is a bobbin case that is too tight. And this is what happens. I can bounce that, but you don't want to have to bounce that. You want it to stand up in your hand. So this is too tight. The next bobbin case I have, this one won't even stand up in my hand. It is so loose. So the issue with this is I need to tighten the tension spring. And to do that, I use my little screwdriver. But before I do that, I can see that there is an issue here. The issue here is there's a little ball of lint caught under the tension spring. And so it has actually raised that tension spring up so that I can't get the correct tension. So a couple of ways that I can fix that. I can use a pin and go underneath there. But one of the things that I actually like to do is I actually take a piece of paper and slide it under there. And if it's such a big ball, maybe that won't take it out. And I still may have to use my, my pin because that's a real big piece. Thread, usually a cotton thread, is the culprit. So I just want to make sure that that's all cleaned out of there. And now, let's test the tension. It is still too loose. To tighten this so that it's the right tension, you're going to use this screw right here and we're going to turn it to the right. So I did like a tick on a clock, still too loose, so I may have to go to, say, the 6 o'clock position there, so it's straight up and down. I want to try that again. A little bit there. It's got to stand up on your hand. This, depending on the thread you're using, could go a little tighter, but the more delicate thread, this is perfect tension. So it just stands up on my hand. Now I'm ready to start quilting. I want to put this in to the bobbin case and then we'll adjust the top tension to match this. Before I start stitching, I always like to test my thread by just doing the pull test here. And as I pull, I can tell there is no tension there. So this is just a kind of a step that I take to make sure that I've flossed it in between the tension discs. And since I know that it's not flossed, I need to go back up and put it in there. To place this in the tension discs, you want to snap that in. So I've got it right between them. Now I'm going to snap it in. So it went right in there and pull that up. And you can see now, as I pull the thread, that tension spring works. The other, without it being in there, I'm sure it wasn't even bouncing. So that's what we want to see. And let's tighten this up here. Get this thread out of the way. Then I can test this, pull that, and I can feel that it is actually, there is tension right there. Now let's go ahead and stitch this. And my easy set tension says it's at 405. So we'll go ahead and test this. And I can see that my bobbin thread is laying flat. There's some stitches, but it's not defined enough. My top thread looks fine. It looks like, wow, I've got a good stitch there. But my bobbin thread is laying flat. So what this tells me is that my top thread is not working hard enough. It's not pulling that thread up into the fabric. So going to my dial, my tension dial, I'm going to turn this to the right and I'm going to tighten it. Right now it's at 405. I'm going to actually turn it maybe up to 500, and then I'm going to test it again. Still looks really good on top. Let's see what it looks like on the back. It's looking a lot better. I'm still maybe seeing a little bit that I could tighten it. So I think I'm going to go up, maybe up to 520. So maybe just a quarter of a turn. Stitch some more. Still looks really good on the top. And my bobbin thread is making that defined stitch, so it's looking really nice. Perfect stitch. Then again, I could pull this and say, oh, that's what it's supposed to feel like as I pull that thread. But I do have that number, that 520, that I say I like that tension, so I'll maybe write that down, that this thread that I'm using, the tension is 520 for it, for that thread. So I'm going to actually tighten this up. I think I'm going to go all the way up to 800 now. 800 is there's quite a wide spread there between a 520 and 800. So of course that means that I've tightened it a lot and the top thread's going to be overworking. Let's go over here and let's see how it looks. You can see how the top thread is doing too much of the work. It's bringing up that bobbin thread. You're seeing little eyelashes here. If this was a delicate thread, the thread would have broken. But because this is a strong thread, it can handle that, but it doesn't make that good stitch. We want that really nice stitch where the top thread sinks down into the fabric, the bobbin thread is drawn up into the fabric. So the bobbin thread looks really nice, but the top thread has a problem. So as I move this back down to my 520, which is a couple of turns on the dial, so I'm back down to my 520. Then when I stitch, the top thread looks good. The stitches look really nice. My bobbin thread, the stitches look really nice. I like that tension. I'm ready to start quilting my quilt.